Hi boys and girls, today we're going to be reading the book The Mitten. So please remember to have out your reader's journal because that has your vocabulary list that I'd like you to look at when we come across those difficult words. And remember, during that vocabulary lesson, I told you this book has some tricky words in there. So as I'm reading, I'm going to be sharing some things with you to help you better understand with some other words that were not in our vocabulary list. But having that out will definitely help you understand the story. And remember, you can always watch this video more than once. Hope you enjoy The Mitten by Jan Brett. One thing that I absolutely love about this book, boys and girls, is all the beautiful pictures. And on the sides, we kind of foreshadow, which means we're kind of looking ahead to what's going to happen next. So pay careful attention to all the beautiful pictures in this book. Once there was a boy named Nicky who wanted his new mittens made from wool as white as snow. At first, his grandmother Baba did not want to knit white mittens. "If you drop one in the snow," she warned, "you'll never find it." But Nicky wanted snow white mittens, and finally, Baba made them. After she finished, she said, "When you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound, but then I will look to see if you still have your snow white mittens." So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long until one of his new mittens dropped in the snow and was left behind. So remember Baba's warning, if it drops into the snow, he might not be able to find it. A mole, there he is. A mole, tired from tunneling along, so digging along, discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. So he went inside the mitten. It was cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. It's probably pretty comfy. A wool mitten, remember the wool made from sheep's. A snowshoe rabbit came hopping by, and he stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat. It was then that he saw the mitten, and he wiggled in feet first. The mole didn't think there was room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, his big feet, he moved right on over. Next, a hedgehog came shuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone covered with prickles, they made room. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by the commotion, swooped down. When he decided to move in, also the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled, but when they saw the owl's glinty talons, there his talons, so part of his feet, they quickly let him in. I probably would do the same. Those things are quite sharp. Think of like our fingernails are like his talons. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left, but when they saw his diggers, so his claws, they gave him the thumb, which means they said, "All right, come on in. We'll make room." That mitten's getting awfully full, isn't it? It started snowing, but the animals were snug in the mitten. A raft of warm steam arose in the air, and Fox, trotting by, stopped to investigate. So remember, to see what's going on. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy, made him feel sleepy. The fox poked his muzzle inside the mitten when the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the badger saw his shiny teeth. They gave him lots of room. A great bear lumbered by, so he came kind of walking by. He spied the mitten. All plumped up, not being one to be left out. In the cold, he began to nose his way in. The animals were packed in as tightly as could be. But what animal would argue with a bear? Would you? I definitely would not. The mitten swelled and stretched. It was pulled and bulged too many times its size, but Baba's good knitting held fast, which means it held on. It didn't break. It's pretty impressive knitting, don't you think? Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. You can probably barely see him right up there on the bear's nose. So along came this meadow mouse. She wriggled on top one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose. Uh-oh, can you think if something is on your nose, what might you do? Uh-oh. The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Enormous! Achoo! The force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered the animals in all directions. On his way home, Nicky saw a white shape in the distance. It was the lost mitten, silhouetted against the blue sky, which means you could see it against the blue sky. It's white color. Silhouetted is a good word. As he ran to catch his snow-white mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window. First she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw that he still had his new mittens. And there's the two of them together. So boys and girls, that was The Mitten by Jan Brett. And now what I would like you to do is, if you feel ready, go ahead and move on to the next activity. If not, feel free to go ahead and listen to this video again or just enjoy it. All right, boys and girls, great job listening.